The morning started like any other. The smell of coffee, the low hum of the fridge, the sound of a quiet street. Peaceful. Until I opened my front door. That's when I saw it. 3 massive concrete barriers sat across my driveway like tombstones. Gray, cold, and deliberate. Someone had gone out of their way to make sure I couldn't leave my own house. At first I just stood there staring. My coffee turned cold in my hand. The sun was just rising, throwing a golden light on those ugly slabs and like a spotlight on my humiliation. I didn't need to wonder long who was behind it. Because standing across the street pretending to check her mailbox was Delila Thornberry, the HOA president. Her hair was perfectly set, her blazer crisp, and her fake smile sharper than glass. "Good morning," she called, too loud, too cheerful. "Having some trouble, are we?" I didn't answer. Because if I did, I might say something that would make things worse. And with Delila, things could always get worse. HOA narration. This wasn't the first time she'd tried something. Last week, she sent me a notice saying my trash bins were too visible. Before that, she claimed my front lawn wasn't regulation green. She even fined me $50 because my garden hose was coiled incorrectly. But this was new. This was bold. I walked up to the barriers and touched the rough concrete. It was solid, like a prison wall. Whoever placed these knew exactly what they were doing. Probably hired a contractor, probably done in the dark while I slept. And she was enjoying every second. "Delila!" I finally shouted. Her smile didn't move. "Yes?" she asked sweetly, like a teacher talking to a naughty child. "Did you do this?" "Oh, heavens no," she said. "The HOA received complaints about your excessive noise last weekend. Perhaps someone decided to remind you that rules matter. Rules, always rules." The narration. That was Delila's kingdom, the HOA. She didn't just enforce the rules. She became them. And anyone who questioned her was the enemy. I took out my phone and called my friend Jake, an old construction worker who'd helped me fix up the house years ago. He picked up on the second ring. "Jake, it's me," I said. "I need your help. Someone blocked my driveway with concrete barriers." There was a pause. Then his voice came through rough and low. "Delila again?" "Who else?" "I'll bring the truck," he said. "We'll get it cleared." As I waited, neighbors started to appear. Some whispered. Some just watched from behind their windows. No one came forward. No one wanted to get on Delila's bad side. When Jake arrived, he whistled. "Damn, those aren't going anywhere easy." We tried pushing. No luck. The blocks weighed hundreds of pounds each. Jake looked at me. "You could report it." "To who, the HOA?" "That's her battlefield," he nodded slowly. "Then maybe it's time to build something she can't touch." That's when it hit me. An idea so wild it made me smile for the first time that morning. If Delila wanted to block my driveway with concrete, maybe I'd return the favor, but smarter. Something beautiful, heavy, and impossible to remove. As Jake left, I looked once more across the street. Delila was still there, now with her phone snapping pictures. I raised my coffee cup in mock salute. She didn't smile this time. The war had begun. The next morning, the air smelled of wet cement and pine. Jake's truck was parked in my driveway, its flatbed stacked with tools, hammers, molds, rebar, and buckets of gravel. He climbed out, rubbing his hands. "You sure about this?" I nodded. "I'm done playing her game. This time we build something she can't remove or fine me for." Jake grinned. "Planters it is." Lust. Narration. The idea came to me the night before. If Delila wanted to use concrete to block me, I'd use concrete to beautify my home. Legally. Giant planters. Perfectly within HOA guidelines. Heavy, immovable, and planted right where I wanted them. It wasn't revenge. It was art, with a message carved in stone. And we started early. The sound of shovels and metal filled the air. Delila's curtains twitched across the street. I could feel her watching. Jake mixed the cement while I lined up molds beside the driveway. 3 large rectangles, each big enough to hold a small tree. We poured the mixture carefully, the gray liquid swirling like thick smoke before settling. It was honest work, the kind that burns your arms and clears your head. And for the first time in months, I felt in control. By noon, Delila couldn't hold it in any longer. She marched across the street, clipboard in hand, heels clicking on the pavement. "What's all this?" she asked. Her tone was light, but her eyes burned. Just improving my property, I said, wiping sweat from my forehead. With concrete? Planters, I corrected. HOA-approved landscaping additions. Section 4B, line 12. Residents may install permanent planters provided they are visually pleasing and maintained. She blinked. I'd memorized the bylaws. That was my secret weapon. Well, she said, trying to smile, I hope you submitted a design request. Oh, I did, I said, handing her a neatly folded paper. It was dated and signed from weeks ago. I'd filed it after her last warning letter just to cover myself. For the first time, she was silent. Jake chuckled. Guess we're all good then. Delilah's jaw tightened. We'll see about that, she muttered, turning sharply and walking away. We jumped your narration. That phrase, we'll see about that, was her battle cry. It meant she wasn't done. She never was. By evening, the planters were done curing. They stood like soldiers guarding my driveway, tall, strong, unmovable. We filled them with dark soil, planted small maple trees, and watered them until the earth glistened. They looked beautiful, peaceful, but I knew they were more than decoration. They were boundaries, physical and symbolic. Concrete peace in a war I hadn't started. Jake packed his tools. You know she'll come back, he said. I'm counting on it. He laughed and clapped my shoulder. You've got guts, just don't let her get in your head. Too late, I thought. She already lived there, rent-free, behind every curtain and letter and rulebook. As the sun went down, I sat on the porch with a beer, staring at my new planters. The trees swayed softly in the evening breeze. Across the street, Delila stood by her window, watching, her face half lit by the glow inside. She lifted her phone and took another picture. I smiled. Go ahead, I whispered. Take all the pictures you want. Because this time everything I'd done was perfectly legal. And for the first time since she started this war, I had the upper hand. It started small. Little things I didn't notice at first. A sound of rustling near the fence at night. A shadow that disappeared when I turned on the porch light. The faint click of a camera shutter carried by the wind. By the third day after the planters were built, I knew something was off. I'd catch a glimpse of movement through my blinds, a flash of silver by the hedges. At first I thought it was a stray cat. But then one morning as I walked to get the mail, I spotted her. Delila. She was crouched behind her car, phone raised, snapping photos of my house like a detective on a mission. Alarm's narration. There she was, the mighty president of the HOA, acting like a spy from a cheap movie. When she saw me looking, she straightened up instantly, pretending to fix her hair. Morning, she said too brightly. Getting nice photos? I asked. Her eyes narrowed. Just documenting for the HOA's records. Of course, I said, keeping my smile thin. Want me to pose with the planters? Her cheeks flushed red. She turned and walked away fast. I stood there, heart pounding, half angry, half amused. She was getting desperate. The planters had driven her crazy, because she couldn't touch them. They were legal, permanent, and worst of all, they made my property look better. But now she was trying to build a case. If she couldn't remove my planters, she'd try to remove me. That night I installed my own cameras, one facing the driveway, another watching the street. I wasn't just protecting myself, I was preparing evidence. And sure enough, it didn't take long. At 1:42 a.m., my camera caught her, Delila, flashlight in hand, walking across my front yard. She crouched near the planters, took several pictures, then measured something with a small ruler. She was collecting evidence, probably trying to find a violation. My stomach twisted between anger and disbelief. The next morning, I printed the footage. When I saw her walking her dog, I waved her over. Delila, I said calmly, I'd like to show you something. She hesitated. What's this about? I handed her a printed screenshot. Her, caught in the act, crouching by my planters in the middle of the night. Her eyes widened. This is taken out of context. Oh, I said, because the context looks a lot like trespassing and harassment. She tried to speak but couldn't. You keep your cameras pointed at my house, I continued. You enter my property at night. You're not enforcing rules, Delila. You're stalking me. She finally found her voice, and I'm within my rights as HOA president. Not at 1:42 in the morning, you're not. She glared at me, her lips trembling with rage. This isn't over, she hissed. It never is, I said. Narration. That day I uploaded the footage to a secure drive. I sent a copy to Jake and another to my lawyer. because I knew what was coming, the storm before the silence. I didn't have to wait long. A week later, I came home to find an envelope taped to my front door. HOA letterhead, bold red ink across the top, notice of violation. According to the letter, my planters violated community aesthetic guidelines and were considered non-harmonious structures. I laughed out loud. Harmonious, I muttered. That's a new one. But beneath the anger, something darker stirred. Delila was escalating, and she wasn't playing fair anymore. That night, Jake came by again. He looked over the letter and shook his head. She's losing it, he said. This is harassment. I know, I said. But I'm not backing down. Jake smiled. Then what's your next move? I looked across the street at Delila's house with its perfect paint and trimmed bushes. Evidence, I said. She wants a fight in the dark? Fine, let's shine a light on her. As the moon rose, my cameras blinked red. Every step she took, every picture she snapped. Now it was all recorded. I didn't know it yet, but that footage would soon turn the entire neighborhood against her. The game had changed, and for the first time, she was the one being watched. A week passed. The air in the neighborhood felt heavier, like everyone was holding their breath. Then one morning I opened my door and froze. My front yard, my mailbox, even my planters were littered with bright yellow flyers, dozens of them. Each one stamped with the HOA logo and a bold title across the top. Beware of a dangerous neighbor. My name, my address, and underneath a list of false accusations, aggressive behavior, property damage, violations of community peace. At the bottom, in neat bold print, it read, distributed by President Delila Thornberry, HOA. I felt my chest tighten. The quiet morning suddenly seemed loud. The sound of sprinklers, dogs barking, cars starting, everything pulsing around me. Neighbors peeked out from behind curtains. Some avoided my eyes. Others whispered as I bent down to pick up the flyers. It wasn't enough for Delila to harass me privately. Now she wanted to humiliate me publicly. Jake showed up minutes later. He looked at the flyers, jaw clenched. She's lost her mind, he said. This is defamation. I know, I muttered, flipping through the papers. But she's smart. She's using the HOA seal. Makes it look official, he sighed. You've got proof she's been spying on you, right? Every bit of it, I said, tapping my phone. Footage, timestamps, everything. Jake smiled grimly. Then it's time to fight back. That night I crafted my own letter, calm, professional, and backed by evidence. I titled it, The Truth About the HOA President. Inside, I included screenshots of Delila sneaking onto my property, photos of her measuring my planters at night, and a short, clear statement. This is not community service. This is harassment. The HOA should protect homeowners, not bully them. I printed 50 copies and placed them neatly on doorsteps one by one, under the quiet cover of dawn. By morning, the neighborhood was buzzing. Some neighbors avoided me. Others nodded quietly as if to say, we believe you. And across the street, Delila's perfect posture had vanished. She stood in her driveway, arms crossed, watching her reputation crumble. Her phone rang nonstop that day. I could see her pacing through her window, her face red and furious. For once, she wasn't in control. That evening, she came storming over, waving one of my letters. You have no right to distribute this, she snapped. Funny, I said. Neither did you. This is libel, she shouted. Truth can't be libel, Delila, but lies. That's another story. Her eyes flashed with something between rage and fear. This neighborhood used to be peaceful before you moved here, she said bitterly. I took a step closer. No, Delila. It used to be silent, because no one had the courage to stand up to you. For a moment, she said nothing. Her jaw trembled. Then she turned, storming back toward her house. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my porch, the glow of the streetlight painting everything in gold and shadow. The planters stood like guardians beside me. I thought about how far this had gone, from concrete barriers to flyers to full-on psychological warfare. This wasn't just about property lines anymore. It was about control, and I wasn't going to let her win. The next morning, something unexpected happened. A knock on my door. When I opened it, a man stood there, gray hair, kind eyes, holding a coffee mug. I'm Frank, he said softly. 2 houses down. I nodded. Hey, he hesitated, then smiled. Just wanted you to know, we saw the footage, my wife and I. You did the right thing. His words hit harder than I expected. After weeks of isolation, just one voice of support felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. Thanks, I said quietly. He nodded. People are talking. Not in the way she hoped, and he was right. Over the next few days, more neighbors started waving again. Someone even placed flowers in one of my planters. Delilah's flyers disappeared from mailboxes, replaced by whispers about her. The shift was slow but powerful. The HOA queen had cracked her own crown, but deep down I knew she wasn't finished. Delilah never backed down, and the next move would be her most desperate one yet. The sun had barely risen when I heard the first knock, sharp, impatient. I opened the door, and there she was, Delila Thornberry, the self-proclaimed queen of the HOA, standing with 2 police officers beside her. Her lipstick was smudged, her hair slightly undone, signs she hadn't slept. In her hand, she held a thick folder of papers. "This," she said, her voice trembling with false authority, "is an official HOA complaint. You've violated community standards, obstructed pathways, and distributed defamatory material." The officer glanced at me, then back at her. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "this isn't a criminal matter." Delilah's eyes widened. "It is when he endangers property values." I couldn't help it, and I laughed. The officer sighed. "We'll just document that both parties have spoken. No further action needed." Delilah's face went red. She spun on her heels and stormed off, muttering, "This isn't over." But the truth was, it was ending. Just not the way she expected. After the officers left, I sat on my porch again, sipping my coffee. The air felt clearer, lighter. Even the birds seemed to sing louder that morning. But something inside me said this calm wouldn't last. Later that afternoon, I saw Delilah walking up and down the street with her clipboard, knocking on doors, gesturing wildly, trying to rally neighbors one last time. Only this time, no one opened their doors. No one smiled. No one followed. Her power was gone, slipping through her fingers like dust. 2 days later, a letter arrived in my mailbox. Not from the HOA, but from the city council. Apparently someone, I didn't need to guess who, had filed a complaint against my unauthorized construction. I drove to City Hall, documents in hand, receipts, permits, photos. The clerk flipped through the pages, eyebrows raised. "Everything seems perfectly legal," she said. I smiled. "I thought so." As I turned to leave, she added softly, "You're not the first person to file something against that HOA president. You just might be the first to fight back." That sentence stayed with me the whole ride home. By the weekend, Delilah's downfall was complete. An emergency HOA meeting was called. Everyone showed up except her. Jake leaned against the wall beside me, grinning. "You ready for this?" "More than ready," I said. The HOA vice president, a soft-spoken man named Richard, stood at the front and cleared his throat. "It's been brought to our attention," he said, "that the HOA has been mismanaged." He paused, glancing at the crowd. "As of today, effective immediately, Delila Thornberry has been removed as president." The room erupted in applause. Jake slapped my shoulder. "You did it," I shook my head. "No, we did it." After the meeting, I walked home through the evening light. The planters caught the last rays of the setting sun, tall, solid, unmovable. Neighbors waved. Some came over to shake my hand. Even kids who used to avoid my yard now ran past laughing. The neighborhood felt alive again. For the first time in months, I felt peace. Not the fragile kind that comes from avoiding trouble, but the kind you earn by standing your ground. That night, I sat under the porch light, writing the last entry in my journal. The HOA tried to control what I could plant, where I could park, how I could live. But the truth is, boundaries aren't just made of concrete. They're made of courage. I closed the book and looked out at the street, calm, quiet, finally free. Across the way, Delilah's house sat in darkness. Her HOA president sign had been taken down. Her driveway was empty. I didn't feel triumph, just relief. Because this wasn't about winning, it was about reclaiming peace. A week later, I planted something new in one of the planters, a small oak tree. Jake helped me lift it into place. "Seems fitting," he said. "Something that'll last." I nodded. "Something that'll grow." And as the sun dipped behind the trees, I realized this wasn't the end of the fight. It was the beginning of a life without fear, a life on my own terms.